Okay. Thanks. Hi, our next guest is Soma. And Soma, you're going to tell us about an ayahuasca experience, is that right?
Yes.
Can you start by telling us something about ayahuasca?
Yeah. It's a mixture of different plants that grow in the Brazilian and Peruvian rainforests of South America. And they've been used among certain Indian tribes for the past 2,000 years to brew a drink which is a deep medicine for the body, mind, and spirit.
And so, when was this experience?
This experience I'm going to talk about was this past June.
Okay, good. So it's a recent one.
Yeah, it was in the end of June sometime.
Mm-hmm. And where did you do it?
It was in Amsterdam. It was with this group called the Friends of the Forest, which is a foundation that helps these different tribes in Brazil and Peru that are almost at the point of extinction by cutting down the forest and by big business and big corporations. These Indians have almost lost all their native land, and this is this one remaining religious tradition that they have going, this ayahuasca tradition. And so the money that comes in for these rituals in Amsterdam goes back to the Indians in Brazil.
Wow.
To help them survive.
Oh, that's great. And so can you tell us about the ritual? Tell us about the setting in which this took place.
Okay. This was a setting where we're in one large room, a room that holds 50 of us, basically. Uh-huh. And we can all sit in a circle without running out of room. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of an oval circle. It's not a perfectly round circle because the room is a rectangle.
Mm-hmm. And they have different themes for different rituals, right?
Right.
What was the theme of this one?
This was mantras, which I really like that theme of all the different themes. I like the mantra theme because I like that type of Hindi music. And all the music that happens during the ayahuasca ritual is all prayerful, uplifting music, no matter what language it's in or what style it is. It's all that type of music that uplifts your spirit.
Well, good. And do you remember what sort of mood you were in or what you anticipated from the experience?
Yeah. This was in June, which was the month after India and Pakistan blew up their 11 nuclear test devices, which was the first time anything like that happened in my lifetime, where in such a short period of time, after years and years of people knowing how dangerous it is to do that stuff with the earth, all of a sudden there it was happening so quickly in succession.
Okay.
And so I remember when I drank my first glass, because it comes in different doses, and sometimes I'll usually drink about 4 glasses.
Uh-huh. Can you describe it for us? Like what? It's a liquid.
Yeah. It's a tea that cools off, so it's not hot anymore.
Yeah.
But it's brewed out of these different plants, and then you have maybe 3 to 4 ounces in a glass, and it's very, very bitter. There's nothing that's sweet about it. There's not one taste in it that has anything to do with sweet. It's so bitter that compared to what we usually eat and drink, it's very hard for most people to get it down when they first take it. Mm-hmm. And you have to almost develop a knack for drinking it, because after you get to feel the benefits of it, then after many times of drinking it, then you don't really mind the bitter taste anymore. You kind of just have it all accepted in your psyche, you know, so you just go through with it and you know where you're going. You know where it's going to take you to, so the taste isn't so bad to deal with.
Yeah. It sounds like they brew it pretty strong. It sounds like just a relatively small amount gives you a big psychedelic effect, and also the taste is strong, huh?
Well, it's like me, I need 3 to 4 glasses of those 3 to 4 ounce doses to really get me to this point that I'm looking for, where I kind of let go of my controlling ego and just let the energy flow.
And so when you take the 3 or 4 glasses, do you take those together? I mean,
you take them about an hour apart.
About an hour apart.
You take
okay.
the first dose and then you sit for an hour. And especially during the first dose, there'll be really calming music playing on the CD or the tape. You know, some kind of mantra music or some kind of very soft, soothing music. So that during that first dose, you can kind of like just start feeling where this journey is going to take you. Just the beginning, like the foothills of the mountains, you know, that's where you start on that first dose.
Yeah. And so how long after drinking the first dose do you start to feel something from it?
Takes me, of course I have an empty stomach because I fasted all day. So there's no food in there to interfere with it. And I've even drank very little, except for some water. And so it takes me about 40 minutes, between 30 and 40 minutes before I start to feel it.
Yeah.
And what happened to me during this experience, I noticed the first feelings that came over me was this feeling of like just looking at everything in a global way, thinking, oh gosh, India and Pakistan are blowing up these nuclear bombs, and oh, the world is so polluted, and there's so much trouble here, and these people are at war, and there's a volcano going off here, and the ice caps are melting, and just any kind of like bad worldly trouble I could think of, where it almost gave me the feeling inside of myself like, uh-oh, this planet's going down, it's not going to survive. I'm not going to actually have great-grandchildren or even grandchildren, it looks like. I don't know what's going on. You know, it's like... And then I would go to this point where I would go inside my own little microcosm of my personal universe, and I would look at any places in my basement, my living room, my bedroom, the attic, where I could clean up my own personal environment in a certain way. Like 2 months ago, I dropped drinking coffee, and you know, I pretty much have stopped watching television lately without even thinking about it. I used to watch it all the time, and now I haven't watched it lately. I've been just busy doing other types of things and haven't had the energy to sit there and watch television.
Yeah. And so you felt like some things in your life changed as a result of this ayahuasca trip?
Well, what happened was that after going through this global view, then going through this personal house cleaning, I arrived in my heart chakra. And once I arrived in my heart chakra, I realized that that space and that place has the deepest reality in my life. I mean, that's the most meaningful reality. If I'm able to stay in my heart chakra and do whatever I do on the planet, whatever that is, and remain in my heart chakra, I found that that's the most comfortable, stable, secure environment I can find.
Yeah. And so how long after you started the ayahuasca trip did you reach this heart chakra place?
Well, the first trip I reached it. But what's been happening to me through the successive trips is that it stays with me. It stays with me during the week, during the month, during the times that are in between the ayahuasca rituals. I found that I'm staying more and more in my heart chakra with the things that I do on this planet.
Right. And so in this specific trip that we're talking about, did you hallucinate?
No. What I do, though, is I start to think of all of my relations on this planet, past and present. Most of them are alive, but some aren't alive anymore, like my grandparents. On this night, I connected with all four of my grandparents in some sacred space someplace within myself, where I almost felt like I was sitting around this table with my grandparents, and we were all communing in this real loving, hugging, sharing, real, vivid way. Wow,
that's fantastic. And during the whole experience, people are chanting mantras and things like that on this occasion?
There were some times of silence.
Oh, okay.
But let's say after the second dose, basically, that's when live music starts happening and live singing. Another thing that's happened to me during the ayahuasca is that my throat chakra has opened up. And after my 7th time drinking, I started singing along with other people that were singing. Whereas the first 6 times when I went there, I watched other people singing, but I wasn't able to like go along with them because I was too shy, for one thing. Yeah. And my throat chakra was kind of closed. But it has this way of opening up your throat chakra so that song comes out.
And how long was the whole experience?
It's about 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what time did you take the first dose? What time of the day?
8 o'clock at night.
8 o'clock at night. And so then...
And I probably drank the last dose around 11.
Uh-huh.
And then then after I drank that third or fourth dose at 11, then from like 11 to 3 is when you really have the peak experiences. When you've had the full amount, as much as you feel like consuming, when you've gotten that all inside of you, then what happens a lot of times is after it goes inside of you, it'll like go around, this drink will go around inside of you searching for poisons and toxins. And then you end up throwing it back up. And so most of the people that drink it end up vomiting at least once during the night.
Wow.
And when you do vomit, right afterwards, then you really feel light. And you can really start to fly.
But you must lose some of the drug when you vomit.
Well, as long as it stays inside of you for 45 minutes or so, then at the point when you lose it, it's already gone into your cells. You know, the active ingredient has already gone in your cells, and the part that you're losing is actually cleaning yourself out, because it physically makes you clean up.
And so it's not vomiting in reaction to the bad taste or because the stuff itself irritates your stomach?
No. It's just that's all part of the process, of the healing process that it does, is by like going around your body and actually like being like a magnet, pulling toxins and then helping you get rid of it in a very quick way.
Wow. And so it sounds like this is more of a feeling level kind of a thing, more than, say, a visual kind of a
hallucination. Well, for some people it gets very visual. I mean, some people definitely see hallucinations, fractals. I mean, I did it very near here one time, and I saw some heavy fractals. I ended up just sitting in front of a wall for a second. I opened my eyes, and all I could see was fractals. I closed my eyes, and that was all I could see, was like M.C. Escher images just moving with each other, perfectly fitting images in every color of the rainbow.
Yeah.
But that is more like in the early sessions, you know, when you've done it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The more you start to do it, it's basically just a journey to get to know yourself. And whoever you are, it's basically taking a dose of yourself and going diving deep within yourself and seeing what you find.
Yeah. And so, do you have other things you want to tell us about this particular time taking ayahuasca, this particular experience?
Well, I was talking about mostly what my experience was. I also, during this group, I mean, I'm sitting with 49 other people, basically. So pretty much after I've like done all this diving deep within myself, you come to this point where you come more outside of yourself and like merge with the rest of the people in the group. And it becomes more of a group setting instead of like an individual experience, because there's both during the night. It starts off inside yourself, in your inner universe, and then you end up coming out into this outer universe. That's all these other people that were going into their inner universe at the same time you were, and they're all coming out at the same time. And then just beautiful connections and music and loving vibrations start to happen. And everybody's eyes is kind of shining, and everybody's heart's chakras are open.
Well, that really sounds great. And so, what time did you finally leave then?
Between 4 and 6 in the morning.
And how did you feel then?
Exhilarated, uplifted, inspired. Like, no matter how many nuclear bombs Pakistan and India blew up, and no matter how much pollution was happening, and no matter how many cars were like making bad pollution, and no matter how much nuclear energy was being like dispersed in the wrong way on this planet, none of that mattered really, because I'd found this place in my heart chakra where if I could only just stay in that spot, which isn't really that hard, then miracles can happen.
Yeah. And ayahuasca has been an ally for you in opening your heart chakras, is that right?
Yes.
Well, that's great. Do you have any advice for somebody who wants to try ayahuasca?
Yes. Don't do it alone. don't do it at home by yourself. Find a group like Friends of the Forest who have many trained professionals who have done this hundreds of times and really know what they're doing with it, and do it with a group in a group setting. Because the group setting is very important for the ayahuasca. It's not like a recreational thing like smoking a cigarette or smoking a joint. You know, it's much more of a deeper, sacred experience than that, and it needs to be treated as such.
And so, when you got home, were you able to sleep after this experience?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't.
In fact, a really nice sleep. You know,
Yeah.
a sleep that it's hard to wake up from for a while because you go into a very deep place because you do use a lot of inner energy while you're doing the ayahuasca. So at the end, you got to rest. You definitely have to rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, how did you feel the next day?
Well, as long as you get enough rest, you feel very good. If you don't get enough rest, you keep feeling like, boy, I got to get some rest. I got to get some rest. I got to get some rest. So until you get that rest, you don't really feel. I mean, you feel like you need some rest. Just like if you worked a hard job, you know, and your back was sore from lifting heavy things for a long time, you need to rest after that. Well, after ayahuasca, you do so much deep diving deep within yourself that you need to rest from using up that energy doing that.
Okay. All right. Well, this is really fascinating, and I hope that our viewers will find it enlightening. And I want to thank you a lot for being our guest.
Thank you.